Air raid sirens tear through freezing Moscow, yet the gray winter sky remains completely empty above the city. There are no enemy bombers approaching, only a colossal dark shadow that is rapidly swallowing the sunlight. A terrifying wall of water, 150 meters high, dark and dense, looms on the horizon. The proud Moscow City Financial Center becomes the very first victim to be crushed by this destructive power. Millions of tons of water impact directly, turning glass skyscrapers into twisted piles of steel in an instant. The Ostankino Tower, Europe's tallest symbol, buckles under pressure and snaps in half like a dry twig. The raging torrent surges through the wide avenues, sweeping away every single car and bus in its path. The world's most magnificent subway stations are now transforming into deadly water traps with absolutely no way out. The vibrant onion domes of St. Basil's Cathedral tremble moments before being submerged into the eternal darkness below. The Kremlin walls crumble as freezing water infiltrates every corner of the historically impenetrable fortress. Beneath the murky water, fragments of modern civilization float aimlessly like silent ghosts of the recent past. The vast city of Moscow, home to 12 million people, is being wiped off the map in minutes. The water carries millions of sharp ice chunks from the northern reservoirs to slice through the urban landscape. The last survivors huddle together on high rooftops, watching in despair as the floodwaters rise to their feet. The massive Crimean Bridge is lifted from its foundations and thrown violently into the roaring river below. As the power grid fails, Moscow plunges into night, leaving only the growl of the inland ocean. Deep freezing temperatures quickly turn the still waters into a massive icy tomb covering everything in sight. It all began with one fateful moment, when the northern sky lit up with the messenger of death. This is not a science fiction movie. This is the absolute worst-case scenario that science has ever warned us about. Welcome to the final day of Moscow. It begins on a freezing Tuesday evening with heavy traffic jamming the MKAD ring road as snow falls gently. 60 meters underground, millions of commuters travel through the marble palaces of the metro, unaware of the threat above. They are completely unaware that an uninvited guest from the asteroid belt is hurtling directly towards the Russian heartland. The cosmic target is not solid land, but the frozen flat surface of the massive Rybinsk Reservoir in the north. The impact at 40,000 kilometers per hour triggers a water bomb with absolute and devastating destructive power. The reinforced concrete hydroelectric dam instantly crumbles into dust under the immense pressure of the hypersonic shockwave. 300 kilometers away in Moscow, flocks of black crows sense the danger and take flight, darkening the sky. The ground begins to tremble violently, causing coffee cups in roadside cafes to rattle and spill over the tables. People on Tverskaya Street stop and look at each other, mistakenly believing this is just a natural earthquake. But the horrifying truth hits when every phone in the city simultaneously screams with a red emergency alert message. The first sound isn't water, but a deafening wind roaring like a jet engine tearing through the atmosphere. From the north, the horizon completely vanishes, replaced by a towering wall of gray-black darkness swallowing the sky. The ancient birch forests in the Khimki suburbs are snapped simultaneously like fragile matchsticks by the advancing force. Beautiful wooden dacha country houses are pulverized into splinters within a mere fraction of a second of impact. Sheremetyevo Airport, the largest air gateway, faces disaster as massive airliners are lifted effortlessly off the tarmac. The passenger terminals flood with freezing water, glass shatters, and luggage floats everywhere like lifeless bodies. The raging water rushes into the Moscow Canal, turning the narrow channel into a cannon barrel aimed at the capital. Luxury cruise ships docked nearby are tossed around, slamming violently against the reinforced concrete embankments. The MKAD ring road, Moscow's traffic dragon, is severed as the torrent sweeps away thousands of helpless cars. The Ostankino Tower stands tall amidst the flood, but its foundations are being eroded with every passing second. Then the moment arrives. The concrete giant tilts, dragging down thousands of tons of cables and steel. The collapse of Ostankino creates a secondary tsunami, swallowing the nearby VDNH Park exhibition grounds. Water floods the northern substations, triggering blinding blue electrical explosions that tear through the rain. The raging waves race towards the center, where the Moscow city skyscrapers await their inevitable demise. The Evolution Tower, with its unique spiral shape, is surrounded, glass cracking under the immense pressure. Millions of glass shards shatter, water bursting into Class A offices, sweeping away desks and vital documents. The Federation Tower, the tallest building, becomes a lonely island amidst the brutal ocean of floodwaters. The Bagration Bridge connecting the riverbanks is torn apart, snapping into and sinking in an instant. Beneath the ground, the legendary metro subway system is experiencing its final agonizing moments. Water surges through ventilation shafts, turning deep tunnels into high-pressure hydraulic pipes. At Mayakovskaya Station, ceiling mosaics witness the black water rising to swallow the platform whole. A moving train, unable to escape, is trapped in the tunnel as water levels rise to cover the windows. Panicked passengers bang on the glass, trying to escape amidst the darkness and extreme freezing cold. The incredibly long escalators at Park Pobedi Station become deadly waterfalls, washing away all efforts to climb. Above ground, the flood enters Tverskaya Street, the main avenue leading directly to the Kremlin. The National and Ritz-Carlton hotels, symbols of luxury, are now merely waterlogged concrete blocks. The Bolshoi Theater, a cathedral of art, has its main doors breached, water spilling into the magnificent auditorium. Red velvet seats and crystal chandeliers are submerged in mud, filth, and freezing ice. Finally, the water reaches the very heart of Russia, the Red Square and the Kremlin. Lenin's mausoleum is besieged by cold water, its dark red granite structure slowly sinking into oblivion. The Kremlin walls, witnesses to centuries of history, cannot withstand the weight of billions of cubic meters of water. A massive section of the wall bursts open, water rushing into the inner grounds like a monster unleashed. The Tsar Cannon and Tsar Bell are rolled away by the current, tumbling like mere toys. The famous gum department store opposite suffers the same fate, luxury goods floating amidst the murky water. Street Basil's Cathedral, the most vibrant icon, stands isolated amidst a sea of water rising by the minute. The Minin and Pozarsky monument in front of the cathedral is toppled by waves, sinking deep into the frozen ground. The Crimean Bridge, Moscow's most beautiful suspension bridge, buckles under the pressure of the raging Moskva River. Cables snap and the entire bridge collapses, creating a massive debris dam that blocks the flow. Gorky Park vanishes completely. The giant Ferris wheel collapses, rolling across the water's surface. The colossal Peter the Great statue on the river is not spared, tilting precariously before slowly sinking. The Cathedral of Christ the Savior, with its golden dome, becomes the final lighthouse in the dark sea. But the water continues to rise, flooding the basement, destroying the foundation of Russia's largest religious structure. The Moscow sky darkens, not due to nightfall, but from snowstorms and thick rising steam. The small streets around Arbat turn into rushing rivers, washing away all memories of the old district. The Lenin State Library is submerged, millions of precious books dissolving into paper pulp. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, one of the 7 Stalinist skyscrapers, stands firm like a fortress but is completely isolated. All communication efforts are severed. Antenna towers on rooftops are snapped by gusting winds. Military armored vehicles sent for rescue are mercilessly swept away by the torrent. Rescue helicopters hover overhead but cannot land due to strong winds and the lack of landing zones. Thousands of people climb onto apartment rooftops, creating islands of humanity in the freezing ocean. They look down at the black water, where playgrounds, parks, and their beloved homes used to be. A car floats by, headlights still on underwater, illuminating the ghosts of the dead city. Temperatures drop sharply. A thin layer of ice begins to form on the stagnant water in the alleyways. Those who are wet begin to freeze. The battle for survival shifts to fighting the cold. The entire city is now a massive, frozen graveyard, silent and terrifying. The only remaining light is a fire burning atop a distant petrochemical tower. A polar bear from the zoo escaped, wanders on floating ice chunks in the middle of Red Square. The moon emerges from behind clouds, casting a silver light upon this magnificent, devastated landscape. This is the price of complacency. When humans thought they could control nature, Moscow is not dead. It is merely hibernating in a long, cold sleep. As the water stops rising, a crueler enemy emerges. The bone-chilling minus 30 degrees Celsius cold. The national power grid, already overloaded, now officially surrenders to the catastrophic double disaster. All the lights of Moscow vanish, plunging the city into medieval darkness in the 21st century. Central heating systems shut down, turning millions of apartments into massive habitable deep freezers. At the nearby Kalinin nuclear plant, reactors are forced to activate emergency shutdown protocols immediately. The collapse of the energy system triggers the total paralysis of all ongoing rescue operations. On the water, oil slicks begin to freeze, turning into patches of toxic black ice. Floating cars are now Loctite in ice, becoming iron coffins for anyone trapped inside. The Bolshokatinsky Bridge lies broken, twisted steel bars like frozen iron dragons in the sky. Northern storm winds blow in, carrying Arctic cold that coats every ruin in blinding white. The ice thickens by the minute, crushing the hulls of ships trapped on the Moskva River. Survivors on rooftops start burning anything they can find just to keep themselves warm. Helicopter sounds fade and vanish, leaving the sky completely to the wind and the snow. At the Moscow Zoo, cages are shattered. Wild animals escape, lost in the city of ice. The worker and Kolkhoz woman statue stands tall, now draped in a glistening coat of ice. Field hospitals are overwhelmed, supplies run dry. Doctors watch helplessly as patients succumb to hypothermia. Communication collapse allows terrifying rumors to spread faster than any deadly plague. Rumors say the second dam downstream is about to burst, but no one can verify it. Moscow's longest history night passes in deadly silence and bone-chilling cold. Dawn finally arrives, but it is an ash-gray dawn, weak, pale, and incredibly cold. Morning light reveals a surreal scene. Moscow has transformed into an Ice Age Venice. Red Square is a giant ice rink. Street, Basil's onion domes poking out like mushrooms in snow. Abandoned parade tanks are now nothing more than harmless, white mounds of snow. The breached Kremlin walls reveal inner palaces now being invaded by relentless frost. The clock on the Spasskaya Tower has stopped forever at exactly 1832. Beneath the thick ice lie streets once bustling, now an underwater museum. The magnificent Mayakovskaya metro station is now a cave of icy stalactites. Metro train cars lie silent in the dark, passengers inside sleeping peacefully forever. Above ground, survivor groups begin trekking across the ice in search of food. Supermarkets and food stores are looted clean or lie deep under inaccessible ice. Money, gold, and jewelry become meaningless. A bottle of clean water is now worth more than diamonds. The Lenin State Library is the only remaining source of fuel. Books. Pages of history burn bright, warming the humans who are writing the final chapter of mankind. The fallen Ostankino Tower lies across the neighborhood like the skeleton of a prehistoric monster. Luzhniki Stadium, once a World Cup venue, is now a giant frozen reservoir of sewage. Major hospitals like Sklifosovsky are isolated, doctors operating under the beam of flashlights. No internet, no satellites. Moscow has completely vanished from the world's digital map. The outside world looks on via satellite, seeing only a white patch where the Russian capital once stood. The remaining bridges become temporary shelters, draped with tattered tents and rags. Wolves from the suburban forests begin encroaching on the city, scenting the smell of death. But the greatest danger is not wild beasts, but the sheer desperation of humans themselves. Amidst the chaos, small acts of humanity still flicker like warm, comforting sparks. An old soldier carries a child on his back, wading through deep snow to find shelter. Reconstruction efforts begin even before the storm has fully passed. Moscow has fallen, but the people of Moscow will never surrender. The skyscrapers of Moscow City lean precariously, yet they stand like colossal tombstones. This permafrost will bear witness to the most catastrophic event in modern history. And when spring comes, if it ever comes, Moscow will be a completely different city. All that remains is silence, cold, and the memory of a once brilliant megalopolis. This is a warning from the cosmos. Our existence is more fragile than we imagine.